We're gonna check out Jubilee. Spectrum. Been a while since we checked out one of these, but this title was so interesting. I just had to. Do all killers think the same? Now, I wouldn't know. Obviously, most I've killed is characters on GTA. All right, so I don't know, bro, but this should be interesting. I just want to know what's happening here. Let's see, bro.
I did immediately regret it in a sense where I called my mom and I apologized to her and I said, I'm so sorry, I think I killed your husband. But then there was also the sense of like, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep looking over my shoulders anymore. I don't have to live in this fear that he's gonna actually come after me because it already happened.
Oh, hold on, bro, I need the backstory. Y'all can't just start off like that with no context, bro.
I would kill them again. 3,
If
2.
Okay, this is a crazy way to start off. What are we doing? I feel like I need to change the what's it called, bro? The classification. Well, that's not depictions though. They're just talking about it. Never mind. I guess not. I don't know. Anyways.
1, go.
Wow. Okay. Okay, now I gotta know backstories now. I feel like these 3 are justified at this point.
Beautiful person, and he was my friend, and what happened was an accident.
Oh man.
I would give anything to have him back.
Oh
My
man.
name's Forrest, and I accidentally shot and killed my best friend when I was 23 years old.
Yikes.
I felt like a shattered person most of my life, and there are still shards in
See, yeah, that's why you can't really call him a killer. Like, I guess like technically you could, but like, you know, it don't fit. Like, bro, it was an accident, bro. Like,
But I just spent the last 5 years writing a very painful memoir. It gave me an opportunity to visit a lot of past trauma. I feel in a strong space to be a support for other survivors and create positivity in the world.
All my killing has been in the time of war, so I agree with what I've done.
See, I expected someone to, he looked familiar. I feel like I have seen videos of him talking. He's a sniper, right?
If I do it again, I would, because if I didn't kill that individual, they would have killed me or somebody else. I was a sniper, so I'm looking after
Yeah, I know this guy.
a platoon of 20, 30 guys.
He's him. He's him, actually. I know this guy. He's him.
Sometimes as small as 6 guys. But I don't like strongly agree with it because of the after effects, like what it did to me mentally. You know, I was the first person I killed, I was 18. I didn't stop until I was almost 25. So I don't regret
That's crazy.
any of it. I don't have any bad feelings towards those individuals that I did kill. They were just protecting their homeland just as much as I would too. So I would do it again to save my life or somebody else's life.
I work in
That's
healthcare.
real, that's fair.
What I do is I manage life support. So I'm the guy that pulls the plug on.
Oh, okay. So these are all technical. Okay. I get it. That's a crazy job, though. Pulling the plug on people, I can't even imagine, bro.
Just about everybody. So I come from a very different perspective. I have to do that for babies.
Oh
to,
man.
like people at the end of their lives. I've been doing
Yikes.
it for like over a dozen years now. So I'm like, okay, I've come to terms with what the job is. So yeah.
That's
There was a
crazy,
crime
bro.
and how it happened. It was not. I didn't go out to kill this person. And now understanding the impact that the crime had, not only on me but the family of that person. That was a human being that I killed over some drugs, right? And his children,
man.
his family is living still in the absence of this person. It was December
Yikes.
24th, Christmas Eve night. Me and a couple of my friends were hanging out. This particular car came up. And the passenger in the car said, hey, I want to buy some drugs from you. So I told one of my friends, I'm like, he's known to be this person that will come through the community and asked for $100 worth of drugs, but he would never have the money. And the guy did exactly what I said. He knocked the drugs out of my friend's hand, grabbed his arm, and started speeding off. And my reaction at that time was I pulled out the gun and I started shooting into the car to get him to release my friend. And days later, we heard that the bullet that I shot into the car actually killed him. To that day, I will never forget December the 24th, when that happened, the day before Christmas.
Yikes, bro.
I would 100% do what I had to do over again because the guy was a serial perpetrator. He was after so many women. If he killed me, he would have went after my mom, all my family, my nieces, my nephews, every one of us, until he literally got what he wanted. I'm Tara Newell. I killed my attacker, Dirty John Meehan, in self-defense. I think it was really interesting how there was one person here who had experienced prison reform, because to me, my attacker would have been in there if I hadn't killed him in self-defense. And it's really interesting to hear about how there are people in there who are able to rehabilitate.
I immediately regretted it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, I can imagine he'd be the only agree, honestly.
Why do I strongly disagree? Like I said, I was a young kid. I was 18. The first guy I killed was with the 50 cal like machine gun. I was expecting it to be like the movies where you have this like feeling of when you kill someone, and it wasn't there. I didn't really feel anything. It wasn't until like that night I had this weird dream. The guy who I shot became a ceiling fan in my room. His arms and legs were the blades. His head was the center of the fan. And I watched him spin faster and faster until he tore apart and covered me in what he used to be, what was left of him. But no, I didn't feel anything. There was nothing like to feel. I knew that was the beginning of something that I was probably going to have to do for a while. No attachment at the time.
I can agree with you.
Yikes, man.
I mean, identify with that because my first couple years inside of prison, I detached from it completely. When people would mention his name, I would don't see him as a human being. And that was very insensitive when I look back at it now, right? But I look and say that was a way of me coping with the situation at that time.
I did immediately regret it in a sense where I called my mom and I apologized to her and I said, I'm so sorry, I think I killed your husband. So there was that, but then there was also the sense of like, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep looking over my shoulders anymore. I don't have to live in this fear that he's gonna actually come after me because it already happened.
Sometimes family members don't agree with the decision, and that decision is sometimes taken away from them. Being called every name in the book as I'm walking in there, but they just don't agree, and then I'm like, I just have to go do this now, you know? But it doesn't feel good, or like I'm not necessarily agreeing with it. So I'm like, I disagree.
That's a tough job,
the level
bro.
of heartbreak that I felt immediately after that gunshot was indescribable, and I don't know if any of you have saw Red before, but I actually saw Red. And it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen, experienced, witnessed, felt in my life. I got charged with first-degree murder that night, and I was looking at doing 35 to life in California. I couldn't even process that. It was just so much a combination of horror and grief immediately.
Yikes, man.
I am desensitized to death.
I don't think anyone could be, really.
1, go.
Well, I mean, obviously people can look at history, but you know, I don't think anyone really could be.
Yeah, why is that?
I do a lot of volunteer work, and the amount of people who are dying from drug overdoses and suicides right now in the arena of trauma, it's becoming difficult for me to feel anything anymore.
That's real, though.
People that we're losing that we don't have to.
For me, it was almost like playing God, you know? I determined the time, place, when I'm gonna take that person off this planet. And it put things into perspective for me too, that I could be gone at any certain time. Like when you have to pull it, you know, you don't know when that card is gonna be pulled. So I've learned to value it more and know that it's very fragile, very frail. And to not feel anything towards killing someone would probably be more devastating to me than.
Am I tripping, or does he kind of look like low tier God? Like a little bit. Like they could be like cousins or something.
It's not.
Anyways.
Hold on, I need to clarify something.
Yeah.
I just want to be very clear that being desensitized in no way means that I don't value life.
Oh, yeah.
It's just difficult
Yeah.
to
Manage to.
feel the morning over.
That's real. That's understandable.
Like, I agree with you. Like, there will be certain stories that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. But if someone just tells me like, oh, that person died of a heart attack, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, it
Really?
just like, there's no traumatic incident with that. So I'm like, my brain just disassociates and it's like, okay, oh, they died naturally, so.
And from where I come from, like I get to know a lot of these people. If I don't get to know them, I get to know their family members like very intimately. It's not immediate, like, oh, they're coming in and they're gonna go. No, it's like weeks, months. I've had
Yikes.
somebody like their 5-year-old son, and he was in the room, and I'm like, I gotta take your mom away now. And it's like,
Yikes.
after that, I'm like, oh my God, I'll go call my mom or I'll go call my dad. It's like, it's really heavy. But I
Yikes.
feel, like you said, like a sense of maximization of like, I don't know when my number is gonna be called. Because even if I'm working in the emergency room, we've worked on somebody for 2 hours and they're like, we really can't do anything anymore. And I'm like, just like that, gone. I remember
Yikes,
this
dude.
one patient, it was very much like nobody was there. They just found him on the street. He didn't even have a wallet. He was clinically dead, brain-wise, so we couldn't really do anything anymore. Me, the nurse, and the doctor just stayed in that room until his heart rate left, because we didn't want to see him leave by himself. That was one of the most, sobering moments too. It's like, as much as it was nice for us to do that, I just don't want strangers around me, seeing me off.
That's real.
As a teenager, selling drugs, just hanging in the streets, just living a lifestyle that I didn't care if I killed someone. I was very desensitized. I didn't care. I didn't feel no remorse for it. And this was part of my own personal development. I needed to find a way to attach to that. So I started doing this hospice training inside of one of the prisons. By listening to these individuals tell their story and the regrets that they were living with in their process of transitioning, it gave me a sense of a value of life now. And it shifted my mindset as this teenager who was very callous towards life at that time.
I've taken care
That's
of people.
real.
They're being on life support. They'll hang on for like a very long time until one specific person sometimes just visits them. And then I'm like, I can't explain that. I can take them off. And their heart rate will keep going and going and going.
One of the guys I was working with in the prison, he wanted to see his sister. So this dude held on until like his sister walked into the room, and he was like not consciously, but like she spoke to him and she started like talking to him, and you started seeing him move. And then soon as she was like, I'm leaving, and like within minutes, it's kind of like transition.
Yeah, with
That's crazy.
my situation, I made him brain dead, and so he was in the hospital. And then when they pulled the plug on him, my mom literally had to tell him it's okay to go now, and then he left.
Wow.
Some weird things about that.
Yeah.
That's wild, bro.
Just our brain, right?
We're spirits living in
For
flesh.
real.
That's all.
I am also a victim. 3, 2, 1, go.
I feel
Okay.
weird.
We're not trying to single you out.
But I feel like I have to be over here because the guy came after me. I was in a parking garage. I was just trying to go to the Jason Aldean concert that night.
Yikes.
He started attacking me, stabbing me, and
man.
I fought back and I won. So I didn't ask for any of that. I honestly hated the guy and I wished he would be dead, but I never wanted to unalive or take someone's life.
My
Yeah.
first couple years in prison,
right.
I saw myself as the victim, right? And that was, again, a way of me coping. As I
Real.
continued to do some interpersonal work, I realized that I was not a victim, that I still made a choice in the crime that I committed, right? But I just wanted to share that. Like, I wanted to run over there, but I'm in this place of healing and reconciliation, and I had to like move away from the victimization mindset and take ownership for the decision that I actually pulled the trigger, committed the crime, unfortunately, someone died, and I have to take that on because that's part of my own personal growth and development.
That's
I remember
real.
on a Friday night, 3 years into my incarceration, I remember laying in my bed watching this show called Dateline, and for the
Great
first
show.
time, I heard a mother really expressing her loss for the loss of her loved one, and that was that moment in my life where I connected with that. I'm like, yo, I did the same thing, and I went into a fetus position and I started praying, and all I kept hearing hearing this voice saying, I have forgiven you. You have to ask Gary, the guy that you killed, to forgive you. And in that process, this is where I began.
That's
I remember
deep.
saying, Gary, would you forgive me? And I literally felt like in that moment, he forgave me, and I heard it. And it's almost like a weight was lifted off of me. And that's when I began this cleansing, this process of healing and moving forward and finding a purpose and finding my voice and all of that particular night inside of that prison when I surrendered to it.
No, I don't
W
feel
growth,
I'm
man.
a victim for anything. Like, I chose that path. Started off wanting to be a Navy SEAL when I was like in elementary school. My mom helped me make my first ghillie suit when I was in the 6th grade. Like, it's something
hard.
I've always wanted to do, and I knew it came with that, which was more than likely having to kill someone, especially in the time of war.
Yeah.
I'm not a victim, but the only thing I would say is like they don't really prepare us into doing the job that we do. They they do the day-to-day thing. Oh, this is what you do, this is what you chart, and all that stuff. And then now you're like, oh, by the way, the doctor wrote the order. Go take him off, and now I gotta walk in, or like if it's a baby, they're still holding them in their hands and stuff, and like go take them off. And so I never really thought about it. Like nobody's like talked to me or anything. Like, by the way, this is where you're gonna feel afterwards, or like when you get home after you clock out and everything like that.
Yeah, we don't have a handbook on that either. Like, yeah, they teach you how to kill, but there's no
How to process.
how to process it.
Crazy, bro.
I have profited from the murder.
Yo, imagine.
3, 2,
Well, I mean, she did.
go.
She has safety now. Like, that sense of security, probably. But it's valid.
Sad about this.
Oh, yeah, that was actually his job. So that makes sense.
Murder.
That word's kind of
Strong.
It is. It is. It's a crazy word.
Why don't you like that word? I don't like it
all
either.
right. I don't think it applies universally.
Yeah.
Right? Homicide is a universal term. As far as profiting from any part of my story, no. I've spent the last 5 years struggling to write and publish a book, and I've spent about 80 G's on it.
Yikes.
Made about 4,000, and that's not why I did it. I did it because I want to help people, but I don't think that it's very common for people to profit off of recovery from stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
I guess I'll go over here then. My attacker, my show got made into a podcast called Dirty John, and then it got made into a documentary, a TV show on Bravo, and now on Netflix. And so I felt like I've been exploited.
I kind of want to watch it. Oh, never mind.
In a sense?
I was about to say, I kind of want to watch it just because, like, she here and, like, you know what I'm saying? That seems like an interesting story to know more about. But since she feels exploited, we not rocking with it. And that's why I don't rock with true crime, bro. It's very exploitative, bro.
Because I did not make anything off of the podcast. Although people think I profited off my story, I did not.
But also, and you get paid to take his life.
No, not at all.
Okay, so if you profited off of if I profit off of anything, it's my hard work afterwards.
Yeah.
It's my hard work to share and be of service. So no, you didn't. People hate profit sometimes. They just hate you just because you made money.
Yeah.
For me, as a speaker and a trainer, I struggled with that for a long time, right? You know, I committed this crime, and yes, I did all of the work that I have done to become the man that I am today. But then I don't sleep at night, right, knowing that I've made this bag of money or whatever. Any money I get, I want to be able to live comfortable. It's not about getting something in luxury. How can I help some young person? So we do the nonprofit work. But my 5-year goal now, or 10-year goal, is to use whatever profit I make is to create a foundation in honor of Gary. Going back to that promise I made to him almost 30 years ago inside of a prison cell.
It initially started as me writing a journal. My dad suggested I did that. I was going through a hard time, self-medicating and contemplating some bad decisions. Started off as that, and it got picked up by a major book publishing company, and it went on to become essentially like an autobiography of that time. After accomplishing that, I went on to what I do currently, which is write, novels and stuff like that. Not based on my life, because I did feel a certain way about it, of profiting from killing, I get what you're saying too. All the work that you put in there after, that's on you, but I also see it as, well, I killed all these guys and I wrote a book about it and profited from it.
Were you an E4, E5?
That's real.
E5, yeah.
That's all the money you made off it.
Right?
Once again, complex
Real.
issue that gets lumped together. If somebody has money, they must be doing something for
bad,
profit.
yeah.
And I think where an answer is, do we follow purpose or do we follow the money? It's gonna go away when I die. It's not gonna matter.
Real.
What's gonna matter when I die is what I did. Am I
Exactly.
proud of myself for
Yeah.
the things that I did?
True.
I often see money more of like as an amplifier for what people can do, what reach they can do.
Yeah, what you can make impact on now, knowing when I go speak to young people today about gun violence and about my story, the only way they can get out of a situation is if I have money. Right? That I can create a safe space for them to go after school. So I have to make some money to be able to do that, you know what I mean? But I don't want to make a bunch of money and I'm living here and then I walk into the community and say, hey, young kids, put the guns down, prison, say no to prison, and then I drive away in this nice car and forget about it, right? So that's where I'm at, purpose for me is about how do I make impact in the lives of the people that I serve.
Taking a life was part of God's plan.
That's an interesting prompt.
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm unclear with that one. That's why I'm like this.
You're on the other side.
Yeah, I wouldn't be who I am today, to be able to have the experience that I've had and become who I've become without taking a life. I learned my lesson after all the killing. The last deployment dropped over 30 guys, 33 people, and who knows how many before that.
That's crazy.
What I had to get through and overcome to stand here today far exceeded anything I've done in the military. Being emotionally somewhat strong and what I've had to overcome. There's been a lot of dark nights where didn't think I was gonna be here,
That's real.
Why I'm like this?
Yeah, I know what you mean though, yeah.
I don't want it to be perceived to be insensitive about the victim.
Yeah.
Right? But I know on this part of me, I look at my friends who I grew up with at 19 years old, and I did 22 years in prison, and when I came back home, they were at the same spot under the same tree we sold drugs at. But then over here, I think about the Gold Dingers family, because their son is like, oh, God destined my brother or my son to die. You know what I mean? So,
But if you believe in God, then that would be, he already knew that before you
I
were
get
born,
that part. I mean, I'm a spiritual man, right?
yeah,
But I'm
same.
just
Real.
I don't want it to, it's just, that's my dilemma when it
If
comes
there's
to
a God, I don't think that he's letting some kid be blown apart in Iraq because he's busy helping me look for a parking space. Right? I don't think that the realm of the spirit is as concerned with human affairs.
Real.
I think that the sun rises and sets for a reason. It rockets through space at 40,000 miles an hour with a bunch of rocks around it for a reason, and animals have instinct for a reason, and I
Real.
think human beings,
Free will.
it's a little
Free
different.
will.
Free
And
will.
I
Yeah,
think things just
I feel
happen
that.
sometimes. There doesn't have to be meaning or a plan.
But then it's hard for a person who lost a loved one to wrap that. For me, my homicide is completely different than most of you in this room. Is someone died by me pulling this trigger. And I can't say it was in God's plan.
I pulled the trigger too.
That's real.
I thought the gun was empty. And I still can't wrap my head around a stupid decision like that. Even though that it malfunctioned and acted unloaded, had I done all the right things, the 4 safety rules, it never would have happened. And I was nervous coming here because I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking.
Real.
And I had no intent at all. There's no way I would have as soon put it to my head or at the floor or whatever. And I can't remember ever doing that before or after. And it was a mistake.
I think for me, it was part of my dharma. I'm a little bit more spiritual, so I think it
Okay.
was my life's purpose, to be honest. Because of what I do today, whenever I speak, I always have people contact me and say that they left an abusive relationship or what I shared helped them get out of their attack.
Sharing your story helps other people, and
Yeah.
you feel that.
I call it transparency transports people.
I feel that.
So I'm like really honest about who I am because there's someone else, not just in a physical prison, but an emotional, mental prison. And by hearing your story, hearing all of our stories, it helps transport them to another space of showing that I can't escape this particular prison.
After having this discussion, Lester, choose a side.
Yikes. Yikes, they making him pick, bro. That's crazy.
I'm gonna say I don't think it's fair to make you choose a side.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You believe what you believe.
I'm gonna stand just a little bit over there.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
Like, respectful.
That's real.
I really like what you did, man, because we move in seconds and inches.
Yeah.
We measure progress in like
I'm
miles
right
and
here.
years, you know?
I feel that, bro.
That was kind of a lot.
What's up?
This episode was just sort of intense, and I think I need a little time to debrief now.
Real. That's why I couldn't even do like the normal, like Milky, like you know.
Down bad, huh?
I be doing that a lot.
Yeah, just a little, you know, sometimes I need
W-Ad.
Because just
I'm ready.
1.
Wait, what? W-Ad.
There are enough resources for me to heal. 3, 2, 1, go.
I think in a lot of their cases, community is the best resource, bro. That's what they need. And it looks like, you know, this group is an example of that. In a way.
When I was in the military, it was like looked down upon to go seek mental help or anything. Dude, you'd get kicked off the team, you know, in a heartbeat. I don't want a guy who's soft watching my back, you know, or what I perceived at the time to be soft. After each deployment, our therapist was like a 18-wheeler truck full of kegs of beer and more beer. And 12 hours ago, I just took a life, 21 years old, at a strip club in Atlanta, drinking, you know, till my eyes pop out. To
Crazy.
We would talk to like a psychiatrist, but we were encouraged to write down, you know, I didn't have this emotion, I didn't see this, so we could get home early to see our family. But 2 or 3 years ago, I decided to actually talk to someone and figure out why I was the way I was, because I wanted to change. I didn't like being, everywhere I went, you know, I'm looking at everyone and it's gonna sound so bad, but I was polite to everybody who I met, but I always in the back of my mind had a plan to kill them, just in case the situation presented itself. If something went south, I've already mapped out and planned for 3 different scenarios how I would kill this person. And I was comfortable being in that state of mind because it kept that protection, you know, that wall up. But it gets tiring after a while to always be that way. You know?
Real.
And look at this, right? I want to run over here to the strongly disagree. It's almost because of the length of your sentence, and you, like I was serving life, I didn't become eligible for most of the classes in prison until I came down to my last 3 years in prison, right? Now I have to run back over here to strongly agree. After being a person who's been released from prison, I've learned these different things that now help me to cope with all of the stuff that comes with me living inside of a prison, not only being a person who took someone's life, but seeing other individuals get killed inside of the prison, right? You see people get stabbed in prison over some of the simplest things. No one would come and talk to you about, like, was that triggering for you? How did you saw this person blood spill out over the concrete? Nothing, right? That's why I challenge the prison system and anyone who works in that prison environment to create more mental health services for those in prison, because yes, that person may have committed a violent crime, but we don't know their story.
I'm like that with the military, man.
Yeah.
There's not enough, in my opinion. It's not encouraged enough,
The VA helped me somewhat, right? I'm not going to say the VA didn't help. But when I was suicidal, I didn't call the VA helpline because I didn't want to sit here and fill out a strongly agree and disagree form and wait in a waiting room.
Real.
I called another brother, and he sent me to a program called Save a Warrior, and I experienced something, it might sound weird, called initiation there. The participant faces their own death, and they receive a transitional object. And something about that changed my psyche, and something clicked. And we did stuff like the ceremony for the dead there, where we write the names of the people we've lost and the people we've killed, and we get to cry and like feel the process and become human again, because war can break us, and prison can break us and make us incomplete and not human. And when we use different modalities to place that humanity back together, then we can have community, right? And community is the antidote to a lot of human suffering.
Didn't I say that?
I wrote a 12-step program for vets and first responders called SPARTA, Suicide Prevention and Resilience Training Anonymous. We meet once a week. And I used to think there wasn't enough resources, and the more I get involved, it's not that the help isn't needed, it's that there's abundant ability to create resources. Right? And once we break that, we start to be the creator of it, we create the small nonprofit that serves the area. It's like the Matrix fails, you know?
Yeah.
That was long, sorry.
That's real.
Oh, you're good.
W
Well, I
Mans,
have to
bro.
apologize for like chuckling when you said that part, because I was like, oh wait, I have a plan to kill people too, unfortunately. And then I used humor as my trauma response sometimes. So
Real. That's fair.
I strongly
Same.
agree that I have the resources and the tools I need, because I'm gonna forever be on my healing journey, and I'm always gonna look for them and find them. However, talk therapy, I don't think is very beneficial to a lot of people.
Real.
I think that a lot of therapists need to learn about the nervous system, because a lot of what we went through, we had to use our fight response. So I had to learn how to calm my nervous system to get to homeostasis, to the baseline.
It's like as a person of
That's
color,
real.
it's like growing up, like as an immigrant, it's more like it is what it is. When you like things happen to you, it's like you don't really like, oh yeah, go see your therapist or anything like that. Especially working through the pandemic, I have never seen like that much death in my whole life, and I've been doing this for, at the time, like 10 years. And this was before the vaccine, and I'm like, I don't see the end of this tunnel yet. For me to quit the job would mean other people would die. And for me to continue this job, meaning I would die. And then that was the first time I'm like, I really don't know what to do right here. And that's the first time I'm like, wait, there's this thing called therapist. Maybe I should go talk to one.
Real.
I wish it was more readily available and accepted at the same time.
Real.
Because none of my friends go and see their therapist, and I can completely tell them, like, you wouldn't have certain amount of issues if you just kind of worked on yourself in a different way. Or maybe not therapist, but like a different way, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
like
spiritual
coaching
healer,
or
stuff
Right,
like that.
right here.
That's valid.
Again, I want to run over here. I went in prison at 19, walked out, I was 41, into a completely different world. Right? Wow. So now, like, my organization, Path to Redemption, is that I want to provide that service. Like, how do you cope with when you walk into a grocery store after 20 years and you walk in the self-serving line, you got to swipe that card and you don't know how, or you walk through a line and it beeps, right? And you think that is going to be tackled by the police because they think you're stealing something, right? This is why, like, you and I, individuals, can create that.
So there is not by any means enough space to talk about, like, I was a foster kid, right? So I got raised in poverty and abuse and negative relationships. So what did I do when I grew up? I created poverty and I created negative relationships, right? And that type of a wound, it's such a cultural taboo that there's not a space to talk about that and the impacts, and then what do we do and where do we go from there? So
come on back over here. You got me feeling kind of. I was saying I wanted to do it, right? But I think that's important, man.
and everybody in this circle is a wounded healer and also a servant leader, right? So when we see a gap in something that's needed, it's not just us. So that's where a tremendous opportunity is to create and be of service to other people like us.
I would say it was dope talking to y'all, like learning the different angles of, because I was kind of like skirmish about that title Killer, but listening to all of the different facets and challenges of it, you know, I really appreciate it. For me, I go back to South Carolina and go back into the Department of Juvenile Justice and work with these young people. This is what I want to take back, right? Like, I want to take that.
Same boat, man. A lot of preconceived notions we have about people. I might look at you a certain way, and never would have had a clue that there's a commonality or something we can all relate on and learn from.
It's not every day you get to meet someone that's taken a life, or, you know, and for me, it's made me feel alone at times and not be able to be understood by people because of the emotions and stuff that we have to go through.
Hey man, it's a good group right here, bro. Honestly, I figured this would be a good episode. That's why I watched it. I haven't watched these in so long, but had to right here, bro. Shout out to all these people, bro. Honestly, and anyone that's gone through anything similar or identical, you know. But hey, man, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. It really just puts a lot of things in perspective, bro. Like for real, the world is big. A lot be happening. And a lot of, you know, a lot of crazy situations transpire. And the thing is, too, it'd be quick, bro. A lot of people don't realize, like, bro went to jail since he was 19 to 41. It probably didn't even take him 10 seconds to let off, you know, however many. And, you know, it's crazy, bro. Life is crazy, bro. But it looks like all these people are healing, you know what I'm saying, doing what they need to do to be able to get through life with what they experience and stuff. And, you know, you let us see that, bro. And again, community, bro, they have each other. You let us see it, man.